Okay. Well, I hope this is part 4. I'm writing out a series of videos, 4 of them, I hope. Maybe more. You never know. You might come up with a question. I hate that. Anyways, so it's for Dave Matter. He works hard. He deserves some help. And, he serves. I'm pretty sure he goes along with us anyways. I haven't heard a word from him since I started making them. Okay, part 4. Now we're going to, okay, we've got our party. You remember the party? We got our party membership roles all sort of worked out. If there's anything worse, come and see me. We'll figure it out. Oh, we got 2 left. But this can be part of the 3 and 4. This can be part of 2. It's because they're related. It's campaign management. Now, this might seem a shock to you conspiracists, but a good campaign manager never picks the candidate. Contrary to popular opinion, you don't go picking a, well, unless they ask for it. Some people will say, oh, what should I wear? Seriously, no, that's okay. But be honest. If you don't know, you don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fashion guy. So, how to get a candidate? What does a campaign manager do with a candidate? Now, I follow a rule my old man made. So there's politics, and then there's party affiliation or alignment, like conservative, liberal, whatever. And then when it comes to the election, you got to go with the guy you like the best. And it's not always in your party. Not always. Um, I joined the Conservatives. Well, it was kind of easy at the time because it had Joe Clark. And Joe Clark is the most honest politician I've ever witnessed, which isn't saying much. But he'd rank right up there with being honest, and that is worth something. Trust me. Picking a candidate, you don't. There, I prefer to pick the man. When I'm going into an election, I look at party affiliation, but most of all, I look at who is running. And I will switch. If I don't like the person on this, or I don't think that person is up to it, like I can like everybody, but if I don't think this particular person is up to it, well, I'll switch. It's what's his face? What's his face? Glenn Downey said, the 75%, which you got to operate under. It's much more important to support the guy you're going to support than not. Now, job of a campaign manager. I was in 3 in high school, 2 at MHS, 1 at Scholar Hall, and yeah, I was member 3, and I've been in 2 party conventions and ran 2 campaigns. I've been in 4 election campaigns. I was a scrutineer, an enumerator when I was younger. You know the story. Okay. And I earned $100. What the hell? That's a lot of money for a little twerp. So I got my Prez, right? So I've learned to pick the guy first, or girl. That comes first. I work for the Greens because a friend of mine, Mr. Scott, he was working for them. He was a hoof and cycle, Wayne Scott. And he was with Hoof and Cycle. I was a courier. And we were trying to get things done. Never turned out. The Greens aren't very organized. I've applied for membership 3 times and they never wrote back. Jeez, what a way to run an outfit. Um, so I not going there. But I worked on his campaign. I held the office, and well, he was out on the road. Wayne Scott was a really good candidate. If he ran for somebody else like NDP, he would do much better. But he had this thing about cars. So you go with the guy you pick, right? In Marathon, I joined the Conservative Party, like I said, because a friend of mine, Bob Cheatham, an acquaintance, Bob Cheatham, was running, a policeman. Well, he's the only guy there who treated me with any respect, and the only person that in the police department who does, and I didn't mind working for him. He was a really good guy. We didn't make the some Foles guy or something from friggin' Geraldton won the ultimate, the nomination meeting. We gave it a good run. And I sort of told the answers. Yeah, they could put it there, And it's like a masters of corruption. Okay? So I I believe in the guy. Seriously, I do believe in the guy. And that's an important thing. Yeah, I was campaign manager for Pat Richardson twice. First time I designed the stuff, I went through what she had to say and bang on, smart woman, never had a problem. She executed perfectly. She did it a second time. She just overprinted the original election signs with the re-elect, you know, little sticker. But she didn't call me for the third time, and she didn't bother campaigning at all, and she lost. Surprise! So you need a campaign staff. In other words, in modern day and age, you need a campaign staff, whether you like it or not. And it's very important for the candidate to understand what the policies are. How often in the newspapers during an election that this candidate screwed it all up because they didn't read or understand the policies. And it happens. It can happen to any one of us. But it's a campaign manager's job to review it with the campaign, with the candidate. So, so everybody is under this impression that the campaign manager somehow takes this block of, I don't know, plasticine, goes blue, and it comes up with a candidate. No. You can't fix one. You can't fix what is broken. Um, like if they ask, what do I wear? I'm no fashion expert, as you can tell. And so I leave that to others. So on Pat Richardson's, I had help from Christine Johnson, smart woman, very aggressive. If I had 6 of hers, I would write it. She's like Dave Matter. Once she gets something in her bonnet, um, but I didn't have to rehearse Pat. So her debates were usually on. Her husband did a lot of work too, and I was good. I'm sorry she lost the 3rd time, but I wasn't there. She could have. I was available actually. Um, but it's important to understand that you can't make a candidate into something unrecognizable. You can't take a turkey and turn it into a swan. Um, there are people who watch television and imagine that's the way it works. No. And it's also important, not only do you get the right candidate, and let them be themselves. I guess that's my overriding. Let them be themselves. What your job is, you go through the entire policy and whatever they think is important. And it's important because they understand what's important to them. They understand that. So that's the start, right? And everything you try to relate on a campaign because you'll be talking to a bunch of people and they have to have it related and it has to be concise, it has to be direct, it has to be truthful, it has to be understandable, and it has to make them want. You have to get the voter to vote for them. And the only way you can do that is be honest and direct. I've seen a lot of people try to hide things. It doesn't work. Not for it might work in Trump's case, he covers it up by lying. Constant. Very few people are iced in that are created that way. I mean, he's a true psychopath and gets away with lying. And lying and lying and lying. But you can't count on that. You're going to have a person from the backwoods or the local social club running for parliament or whatever. Their only experience is in community level. And you try to bring that forward, you bring that out. As far as speeches, yeah, you've got to have the right speeches. You've got to have the right people. They got to have it smooth. They don't have. So you don't make a client. You don't make a candidate. Candidate literally makes your own campaign. And that's what you have to understand. The campaign manager is just the manager, not the campaign designer, not the campaign engineer. They're just there to, first and foremost, make sure the candidate brings out their concerns and hopefully the concerns of the local people. And believe it or not, that can change. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who are candidates run into that. where they'll say, oh, this is important, and they're right, when they took a look at it. 6 months later, the rest of the riding or constituency or community has moved on. So you got to understand the local issues. And you got to understand the provincial or the federal offices. Like the guys who live in Ottawa, shit like that. And think they can, determine what, you know, the next orbit of Saturn is going to be. Well, gun control is not going to work in Northern Ontario. So if you're running a Liberal candidate in Northern Ontario, the last thing you want to talk about is gun control. You don't try to avoid it. You just simply say, well, it isn't law yet. You know. And it'll be a lot different if I get there. It's true. You can do it. But you have to have a consistent way of pulling it up. In Northern Ontario, for instance, it'd be roads. The whole area, for economic reasons, needs roads now. After being ignored for 70 friggin' years. A lot of rural communities are First Nations, and they can't even get a frickin' provincial highway to go in. And what crock is that? No. So you got, another issue up there is railways. We got all these friggin' rail tracks and no passenger service. We got one passenger service going from Sudbury to White River. Why isn't it going to Thunder Bay? Those are the things you have to be concerned about on a local basis. And you have to understand that. In fact, you might go into marathon and it might not be important whether there's a railway or not. They beached a stupid tugboat on the beach and they expect people to pay for it. Yeah, seriously. They thought it hysterical. They thought it was part of history when it wasn't. If they would have checked their facts out, there's no way they should have put a dime into it. But they did. And to save their little ass bacons, they're going to make sure that they save their little ass bacon. Bacon asses, whatever. So a candidate has to be aware of that sort of thing. Like what's going on in each community or block, and emphasize the political planks that help them solve that. Canadian Party platforms are pretty generic, so you can apply to almost anything. So what I'd like to emphasize is when you pick a guy to run, or if you run yourself, you never know. He could have got you drunk. He could have got you stoned. And they go, hey, sign here. Oh, okay. Congratulations, you're running. Well, I've seen a guy do that. But so what you do is what you do. The campaign manager is supposed to work with these guys. And it's not their fault. You're going to run into problems. If you're a member of the Conservative Party, you're going to wind up with that rare ability of shooting oneself in the freaking foot and constant. They do that regularly. It's like they had a death wish because they're better. So I hope you take this into consideration. One, if you decide to work for the party, pick the right guy or woman. And I can't emphasize enough. Women do make good candidates. Here and blatant. So, yeah, I backed women before, and no, not a big deal. And you gotta be deliberate, and you gotta think things out. Or going to come along and end the session.